Hello, my name is Nolan Kaliha, and I am a machine learning and augmented reality developer. And I came to the Spark AR product because I was already making similar machine learning models, and I wanted to check out Spark AR and see what kind of machine learning models they were using. Things like person segmentation and face tracking, these are machine learning technologies, and I wanted to know how exactly were these being used in a product. And so here I am. And one of the capabilities we're going to talk about today is actually the person segmentation model. So person segmentation is a capability within Spark AR that makes it so that you're drawing a mask around a person that is detected in the camera frame. So it's constantly redrawing this mask to make it so that you could create visual effects on top of that mask. And person segmentation is a really special feature because it has the ability to take an experience and actually transport the user out of their environment into a new environment. Or it could just focus the viewer's attention on the actual person in the frame, like it's doing now. So you get this sense of creating visual interest just by focusing where the visual interest should be happening. And it plays into what happens on Instagram and Facebook, where you're using the camera and you're wanting to create some visual excitement in a simple way. And that's what person segmentation does. And so we're going to talk in more detail about how to make an effect with person segmentation, and hopefully that will motivate you to go out there and make something cool using this capability. So let's go, let's do it. What we're going to create here is a pretty simple effect, and it's actually based off of Dan Mohler's effects. If you go to his Instagram, Dan Mohler VFX, you'll see that he has this cool effect that has the person segmentation kind of coming out at you in a procedural animation. So how he might have created this is what we're going to step through. So if you want to look at the pieces of this, let's look at them together. We have 3 different planar objects. They each have different shader colors applied to the camera texture, and they are animated procedurally here by just one animation loop and a transition node. And the scale is scaling up and down to create this effect of like breathing in and out. So that's what's happening. Let's look at the different steps to get there. Now, if I go to File in Spark AR and I go to New from Template, I could select the background template. So the background template, once open, take a little bit, is going to have these different pieces that we're going to use in the creation of our effect. So in our effect, all that's happening is the user material shader color is changed. So if I click on the shader color here and I change it, I can see that it's become this nice blue color. And then we look at the alpha of that user material, and we see that the alpha is the person segmentation mask. So in the template it comes with all these elements, but if you want to know how to get them, you go to the camera device and you see in the properties panel that there's the segmentation option. Now if I click add here, then I get person, and that's how I add the person segmentation texture. So person segmentation mask texture is what's actually forming the alpha for the camera texture to write on top of. And then on top of that, there's the shader color that's forming the blue tint. So just to look at it again, the shader color is this blue tint. The camera texture is set as the default diffuse. And then here in the alpha, we've got our person segmentation mask texture. Okay, pretty simple. Now, what I want to do here is I just want to delete this texture. And that's the default texture that comes with it. And I click on the background material and I set that to camera texture. So now I've got the camera texture in the background, camera texture in the foreground, but it's using the segmentation mask to cut out an alpha so that only the shader color happens where the person segmentation mask is drawn. Hopefully that makes sense, but let's go back and start to build our effect. So in order to build this effect, what we need to do is we just need to duplicate that original setup. So in that setup, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the red planar object, and we're going to press Command D to duplicate it, or we could right click and find the duplicate option here and select that. And here I've got a new red with a number, and let's just change this to green because I know that that's what we're going to want to add. And let's move it up here so that it's behind the red. So now I've got a green and a red, and if I click on the green and I go to user, I can see the material applied is still the red material. And I want to select a new material, so I click create new material, and I'm just going to rename this green. You can see I'd done this before, so just to make sure you know the steps, I'll do it again. So now I have that new green material, and I select the camera texture just like I did before, and then I'm going to actually change the shader type to flat because we don't want the lights to influence it at all. And we're going to click the boolean for alpha, and we're going to change the alpha to the person segmentation mask texture. So now we've actually drawn behind the red a green version with its own green material, and now we just have to make the green material green. So we're going to take the shader tint here, the shader color, and we're going to change it to green, and you can't see it yet because it's actually not big enough. So it's behind it and it's the exact same size because we duplicated it. Now if we want to make it a little bit bigger so we could see it, we could go to the green here, and we could go to the user, and then we could see the scale value. And if I take the scale value and I change it to 1.2, I could see it behind that red. You see a little bit of the green, and that looks pretty good. I like 1.2 for that size. So I've got an animation loop here that is controlling the size of the other user scales. And just to make sure that you know what everything is, I'll go ahead and rename these red user and green. And now, in order to get them to rename, we have to add them again, unfortunately. So here we've got, oh, we could see the arrow is being controlled here, so the blue one is actually being animated, and the yellow one here. Change the yellow. So here the yellow is being animated. If we turn its visibility back on, turn the visibility of the blue back on, it's also being animated. Right there. And now we just need to animate this new green layer. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to import the scale by pressing this arrow here so it becomes imported into the patch editor. And you can see here it turns into a vector 2. So let's look at that. And you can see I've already have one loop animation that is controlling two different transition nodes with a yellow user and the blue user. Now the red is staying the same, it's not scaling at all, but we do want the green user to be scaled to 1.2. So we're going to make sure we click out into the scene, so nothing's selected in the scene hierarchy. Then we could Command C to copy and Command V to paste that one transition node. Now another way to do this is to just take this here and press Command D, and that duplicates it. So I've selected the transition patch and I press Command D. I made sure before I did that nothing was selected in the camera hierarchy and the scene hierarchy. And then I'm going to connect that to the green user. But you can see here it's actually animating at the wrong size because it's getting just as big as the blue behind it. And we wanted it to be 1.2 as our final size. And once we do that, it actually animates really nicely to the size that we wanted. Maybe a little bit too small actually, so let's go with 1.4. There we go. So here it zooms down to the starting size of 1 and then zooms up to the ending size of 1.4. And that's the 2D scale of each of the rectangles that's being controlled by procedural animation, this animation loop. And you can see here it's got a interpolation curve. So if I change this curve, you could see the different effects. So if I change all of them to elastic in and out, elastic in and out, and elastic in and out, you're going to get a different effect on the way that it animates. So it comes in, it kind of has this bounciness, and then it bounces back out. And so that creates a nice and interesting effect as well, but maybe we don't want it to be 5 seconds long, because this is much more effective as a faster animation. You could even make it faster than that. So the duration is going to overall change the effect that you're trying to achieve, and you want it to match your interpolation curve. So what that means is that the curve in which it animates from one value to a new value. So elastic here is just what it sounds like. It's an elastic type of effect. It looks like a rubber band kind of animation. So there we go. We've created a pretty simple effect. All we did was build upon what was happening in the background segmentation template. There we go. Looks pretty good. Okay, so there we go. We've created something pretty cool. It looks like it's taking advantage of the person segmentation, and it's doing something interesting and colorful and inviting. So hopefully that invites you to make something amazing for the Facebook Hackathon. And I hope you enjoyed this talk, and you could find me at AlwayscodingSomething on Instagram, watch my YouTube tutorials or whatever, and I hope you have a great hackathon and everything goes great, and that you all win. I hope you all win, you know?